Hi, everyone. This is a webinar that is about how to design your sold out book tour. I mean, like, have you ever published a book and then heard crickets after it? Have you decided that you want to write an ebook or deliver value, through a book, and then realize that you really don't know how to sell it? Well, this webinar is for you. And this is not like all of your other webinars. This ain't your typical webinar, okay? There's some very special people who RSVP'd for this. When they come on stage, they may not know it yet, but when they get here, they'll have the opportunity to come on stage, so that way we can have a real conversation, because that's what these things take in order to make them successful. We can talk about concepts all day, but when we start to get down to the nitty-gritty of what is actually working on you in your particular mission, that's when we get to start solving some real problems. So yes, today we're talking about designing your 2026 book tour so that it sells out, and that way you attract media, speaking opportunities, and also sponsors. Like, all of these things, these three things, they're commonplace for book launches, not something that you have to reach for. So I'm also making this webinar public right now. However, it's not going to be available for very long. So if you're here, I see there's a few people here. Hi. You are getting exclusive access to something that could make or break your book launch moving forward. And I want to make sure that you get it so that it can help you. And then after 48 hours or so, it's going to come down. And then you can find it inside the PR Rockstar community, where all of the replays live forever, and where also you'll find a community of really helpful people that could help you with your book tour. So let's get into what it is that we're here to talk about today. And that's your book. You wrote it for a reason. And one of those reasons, I bet, wasn't silence. You didn't want to just write this book so that way it just sits on your shelf or sits on someone else's shelf and doesn't make a difference in people's lives. So your story, it deserves to be seen. Your voice deserves to be heard. And your book, it's not just a book, it's a movement. And that movement needs visibility. If a river didn't have movement, then it would be called a lake. If your book didn't have movement, then it would just be a manuscript that sits on your hard drive or on someone's shelf for years and years and years and collects dust. But your book was written for you. And it was written for people who get to hear your story. Give it movement so that it's not a lake, it's a river instead, moving into the people's hands that really need to hear what it is that you have to say. And I see that my backstage guests have arrived. Y'all, thank you so much for RSVPing. I let everybody else who's watching this publicly know that you are secretly a backstage guest, and it's not a secret anymore, which means that you can come up on stage at any time. So that way we can have a conversation. And if you don't want to do that, then just turn your camera off, and I'll know that you're not available for that. And I respect that. So thank you for being here, because it's the real conversations that we get to have about your book and about your situation that solves the problems that actually exist in the world. And we can stop talking in concepts, and we can actually create something real and watch something happen in real time. So thank you all for being here. Those in public and those who are backstage with me, I appreciate you. So yeah, all we got to do is add some movement, right? Sounds easy enough. That turns your book from a book into something that can really impact the masses, right? And that creates visibility. So here's what most authors experience, is that they've, got the launch hype and the launch party. And then sometimes right afterwards, there's like dead silence, like crickets. we'll talk in a moment about why that happened, right? But that's just one experience that we can have as authors. The second experience is that we go through like a whole lot of stress to fill the room, to fill each of the rooms on our book tour. Maybe we have 1 or 2 locations or destinations so far, right? And then we like spend all of this money to rent these spaces and, you know, invite a whole bunch of people, maybe spend some money on some ads. And then the books, maybe they don't sell the way that we expected them to. Maybe, right? Times we sign on with a publisher that we think has like got our back, you know, when it's time for the book launch to happen. Maybe they even promise some things like, yeah, you're going to get an Amazon bestseller badge, or maybe, yeah, you're going to get a Wall Street Journal or a New York Times bestseller badge, right? And then what happens when the actual launch comes is that they're looking at you like, okay, did you do what you needed to do to make that happen? And I see some nods. I see some nods. That can happen too, right? Sometimes there's actually no PR support from the publisher because they look to you for the marketing, you know, and for your dollars essentially, so that they can do what it is that they want to do with those dollars. But then when it's actually time for you to get some attention, all of a sudden they're nowhere to be found, right? So these are, if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it, right? These are real experiences that most authors have, and it's really unfortunate. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how it is that you can actually do some of these things yourself. You can hire a team, and I'm not talking about like, you know, the person that you saw a Facebook ad that says, you know, they're going to help you get those badges and stuff that we were just talking about. I'm talking about like VAs from overseas who you can give them specific instructions for what it is that you want done for your brand and your book. And then they can take action on that as your proprietary support team instead of someone coming in and telling you that they already know what to do. Okay, so that's what today is about. So that way you can kind of take hold and take the reins back from someone who made a whole bunch of promises. And also maybe you already got started, right? This will enhance what it is that you've already done. So that way we can add that movement back again. Like we were just talking about, your book will move from being a lake, which is still, when we add movement, it becomes a river. Okay, and that river can flow into the hands of the people who actually need it. Awesome. And there's a few more things that we want to get through here. I just want to interject, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because it's not that important to me, but it may be important to you. Like, who am I to even talk about all of this? You might be wondering, right? So I'm just going to talk to you for 2 minutes on what my experience has been. And that is, it's a lot of years, and I haven't really said this publicly, but I've been in public relations for, I think it's like 18 years. That's crazy to say out loud. Like, that's really crazy for me to say out loud, and to admit that I've been in this industry and of working age for that long, and I'm okay with it, because what it does is that it lets you know the value and the experience it is that I've seen. So when I started in PR, I actually worked for an architecture firm, and I brought in millions of dollars, actually tens of millions of dollars in contracts to firms by being their business development and marketing front-facing person. And then I moved my career into public relations and worked for a celebrity PR firm in New York City, and had the amazing opportunity to work with a lot of really famous people that you know, that I'm not going to name at this moment because it's not important. But let me tell you that they made millions off of books. They made millions off of, you know, having a product attached to that book. And it's not the same as their entertainment career. They actually had to seek out the agency that I worked for in order to ask my boss at the time, the president of the company, how do I put a book out into this world? And I watched it happen a couple of times. I saw some pioneers who were able to move from selling books out of the trunk of their cars to becoming millionaires. And that whole process, it ain't a secret, right? It's a secret to some, but it's not a secret to me. Because I sat quietly and I watched behind the scenes, and then I made a decision one day that this information does not belong behind a gate, right? It belongs in the hands of people who need it, which is why we're here today and we're talking about this topic. All right, enough about that. And thank you again for being here. Back to this important stuff is, what are most authors experiencing? That they've got a great book, like a really great book, telling a great story, delivering amazing value, but it just does not get the visibility that it deserves, right? Because we have a story, we intend to help people, we intend to deliver value, but unfortunately, all it really needs is just more people to know that it exists, right? There are probably millions of people in this world who would even buy your book at the price that you have it, but they just don't know that it's there. Isn't that crazy? So maybe it's not crazy. Maybe it's just right? We just need to do the things and figure out how to get it in front of their eyes, and also have them understand that it's going to give them exactly what it is that they need right now and what it is that they wanted to hear. And then the last experience that some authors unfortunately have is that there's not enough invitations coming in. And what I mean by this is that there's this, I'll call it a syndrome. And the name of that syndrome is sitting here waiting. A lot of authors unfortunately wait to be invited to do things like speak, or to do things like be on panels or podcasts, or to step on a stage, right? That is not, unfortunately, how the public relations realm, the realm of PR works. You don't wait for the invitations. Yes, there may be some that come and they land on your desk or in your inbox by surprise, right? But the majority of this, even at the celebrity level, people are not sitting and waiting for those invitations. So it's not that there's not enough, it's that we're just thinking about it in a way that doesn't serve us, okay? We're going to flip all of these experiences into how it is that you can overcome these and create that river movement into your book and your brand. Sweet. So we talked about that. But there's also this thing that, the book, it sits on a shelf, right? We don't want it to sit there very long. We want it to actually, again, river movement, move into the people's hands. So you can't rely on the bookstores either. I'm just letting you know that you can't rely on the publishers and you can't rely on the bookstores. I say that with generality, and maybe you found a good one. And if you did, you found a good bookstore, you found a great publisher, then that is awesome. And this presentation may not be for you. Cool. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. All right, this thing here is that even if your book got tons of visibility, let's say that it landed on Oprah's favorite things list, which is what a lot of people look forward to. Hey, by the way, if you've heard of that, Oprah's favorite things, and drop a 1 in the comments and let me know that that's actually something that people still want, people still go for, to have their book on Oprah's favorite things list. I just want to make sure that that's still a thing, because there's better things now. Maybe Mr. Beast has a list, that I don't know about, that people are ending up on. I'd like to know those things. So feel free to drop a 1 in the comments if Oprah's favorite list is something that you want your book to end up on. Okay, we got a comment here. We got a 1. Okay, sweet. Still relevant. Let's keep going. Is that, let's say that your book did end up on that list, right? Then that means that it's getting seen by millions of people. I think we got some more 1s that are coming in here. Yes, a 1. Yes, I see you. Okay, great. Awesome. It's still a thing. So let's say that your book ends up on that list And that means that millions of people actually see and hear about your book through that list. Now, imagine that it's published today, the millions of views happen, right? And then what? Great. Then what? I mean, if you're a coach, which a lot of authors are, then maybe you've got some like services, you've got some one-to-one services, you've got a group program, maybe you've got a training program, right? But those people may not ever see the light of all the programs and wonderful, valuable offerings that you have because, again, they just don't know about it. I was speaking to someone the other day. I was like, okay, if you're, because this is a thing, right? That there are these like celebrity events that are happening out there. There's actually one that's happening in New York City in a couple of days. Shout out to Jasmine that we talked about. We talked about this, how they have a VIP event. I think Beyonce is going to be at that event too. And they're giving gift bags to all of the celebrity people who are attending, right? So if your book ended up in one of those gift bags and ended up in Beyonce's hand, like, wouldn't you want a way to have Beyonce and her people know about your offerings, right? That was something that the person that I was talking to had never even like heard of or thought about. And I'm not saying this about her with any judgment. I'm saying that there's things that we don't know, about handing out your book, is that you could put an insert into each book. If it was going out in a gift bag that's going to a prestigious event, it could have a QR code on it. It could have your picture on it. It could have your website on it. It could have a freebie. It could have a discount on it. But if we don't let people know about the things that we have and can offer them, then they'll never know. So we need to be thinking creatively about how it is that we can capture these leads. Maybe people don't even buy the book. Maybe it's just sitting on the table. Then wouldn't it be nice to have a QR code on the back so that people could sign up and get in your world without even buying the book, because maybe they want more of you instead? Maybe they don't want the book. Maybe they want your one-to-one coaching. Wouldn't that be nice? And let me just check in here. Cha, you okay to come on screen? I know, right? Surprise, surprise. Okay, cool. Thank you. Hi, Cha. Let's make sure that you're off mute. I got you. Oh, wait, I think you have to do it.
There you go. Hi.
Hey. I'm curious, because you are a brilliant author, right? How do you feel about someone going straight from, oh, wow, she wrote a book, to, you know what? Actually, I want more of her. Like, how would that make you feel?
Ecstatic.
Okay. So you wouldn't stop them and be like, no, read the book first.
No, I want you to want more of me too. Okay. I think that's why I wrote the book.
Right. So if that's why you wrote the book, then doesn't it make sense to put that more that they can get from you into the book in some way?
Absolutely.
Totally, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you're cool. I just wanted to check and make sure that it was that it wasn't just me. By the way, since we're practicing this, how can people get in touch with you and your book?
I have a website, chajones.com. Mm-hmm. You can purchase the book on Amazon. It is The Writer's Pathway. And then I also have signed copies that you can get in my store at payhip.com, Cha Jones.
Okay, Cha Jones.
Yeah.
Okay, /Cha Jones. I can remember that, right? I can remember that, and I can type it into my phone really easily to get there. So, like, awesome. Thank you for being brave. Thank you so much. thank you so much. So like, if someone wanted more, right, we're not going to say, no, go read the book first, right? We actually want people to like go into our funnel as a lead and to eventually come out as a customer. Like, we're not going to say no to that as an author. And if you do, maybe you don't have that built yet. That could be a reason that you don't want people to want more of you. That's fair. That's valid, right? And when you do, you're probably going to want it. So having a way to collect leads and to nurture them so that they can eventually become a customer if they wanted to. I'd love to have Beyonce as a customer, as a part of as a person who purchases the book, is gifted the book, maybe wants more of me and joins PR Rockstar School. That would be fantastic, right? But I have to give her a way to do that. You want to make sure that you're always giving your people a way into your world. And sometimes we'll hope that they read that little teeny tiny website that we put on the back of our book. We hope that they get there, right? And hope is not a strategy, unfortunately. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. So what we want to do is we want to put it in front of their face. And one of the ways that we can do that is just by packaging the book differently, depending on who it is that we give it or gift it to. So if I was going to put my book in a gift bag that's going to a VIP event, like the one that I was talking about that's actually happening tomorrow, then what I would do is I would put it in a really nice, fancy box. I would put a bow around it. I would put a handwritten note inside of it. I would give them a QR code so that the way they could get some extra goodies. Like, this is the stuff that most authors don't think about. We just think if I drop it in there, they're going to see this little teeny tiny website and be interested enough to go there. But no, we want to give them the bells and the whistles. I said VIP event, y'all, not an everyday event. So we want the book to look VIP. That shows that we put some extra thought, we put some extra care into where it is that it's ending up. And it's ending up in some really cool hands. So let's treat it that way. All right, sweet. Let me just make sure that because that was a lot that was just packed up in there. If that is resonating with you, feel free to drop another one in the chat, just so I know that it's hitting, that you get what the possibilities are when we're invited or we become aware, that these are opportunities to really connect with a person, as opposed to, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna do this thing and get it inside of a gift bag. This is the cream of the crop kind of stuff. Okay, good. Awesome. Thanks, Teresa. I see your one. Thanks, Damien. I see your one. Thank you, Cha, for putting the link in the chat. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, we are proactive with this stuff and making sure that people can get to it any way that we can. Jessica, thank you for your one. I see you too. All right. So hope is not a strategy. Strategy is a strategy. They're two different words, right? So this webinar, we've actually already started solving that problem, but this webinar is designed to solve that in many different ways. And you get to choose the ways that really resonate with you. We don't have to do it the way that everybody else has done it for the past however many years people have been writing books. I think it's about time we start doing things a little bit differently, as a matter of fact, because these are different times, right? So here we go. Let's make some more solutions, okay, as we continue here. So what we're about to learn 5 book tour models that actually work in 2026. We ain't talking about 2025 anymore because it's practically over. So we might as well talk about 2026. We're going to talk about who to contact and how to get invited, or how to just invite yourself, and also how to turn every stop on your book tour into a paid opportunity. Isn't it awesome that you could get paid to talk about your book and what it is that you're already passionate about? Yes, talking. We're already 25 minutes in and we're just getting started. So I'm going to move kind of fast through some of these things. And if you have questions, because I can see all of your comments, please pop them in the chat and I will do my best to answer it as we are going forward. Okay, because we ain't doing the gatekeeping thing. We're just going to talk about all of this stuff. And then the last thing is how to create a tour that funds itself through sponsors. Now that one is actually a lot easier than a lot of people think. It just requires a little bit more thinking, right? And you'll know exactly how to do that by the time we're done. So let's go. Let's get into it. Y'all ready? Let's see some ones in the comments, just so that I can tell that everybody's ready. Hey, Kerchel, welcome. Yep. Okay, got some ones. Let's keep it going. All right. So your 2026 book tour, it can be 100% in like high energy and sold out, right? What determines if something is sold out? That means that all of the seats, all of the butts are in seats. However many seats it is that you have butts in them. Today, this webinar could hold 1,000 seats, right? So technically I'm not sold out, but if my webinar only had like 20 seats, then it would be sold out. So the only way that you determine if your tour is sold out is by how many seats you have. And if butts are in all of those seats, then you are sold out. Interesting, right? So when we think about even just words like sold out, a lot of people use it to mean one thing when it means something really simple. And that is, do all of the seats have butts in them? That's it. So if at every single tour stop you had 20 seats and they were all filled at every tour stop, you're sold out. Think about what that means in terms of your brand. Think about how impactful it is. That means that your brand is as a result. Because for you, maybe Oprah's favorites list isn't where you belong. Maybe you actually belong somewhere like, at a women's association. Maybe you belong somewhere like a shelter. Maybe you belong in only a few hands because you only help C-suite, right? You got to think about who your audience is and if it makes sense with the number of seats that you're having on your tour. Maybe it is exclusive and you don't need everybody there. Maybe you don't need 1,000 seats. But if you had 10 and they were all filled, then it would make a big difference in your life and your world and theirs. All right. Something to think about, something to chew on, right? Because there's a lot that we don't know about book tours. You want to make sure that your book tour is media worthy. How do we know that it's media worthy? Just think to yourself, does someone want to come? Ooh, we're about to break into something here. Does someone want to come and cover this event that I'm hosting? Can I invite someone from the Root to come and write about what it is that I'm doing here in this city? Can I invite someone from the New York Times, the Financial Times, to come and write an article and be present? Like, that's what media worthy means. Is this worthy of having an article written about it and published, right? And sometimes if it's not media worthy, then, and we want to have that large audience, that large, being media worthy is also ending up on Oprah's list, right? That's media. So if we want that large amount of attention and what we're doing is not media worthy, then let me tell you, it might not be worth hosting. And that's the truth. If that is our goal, right? So we want to align our goal with what it is that we're up to. And if it ain't media worthy, then baby, sometimes it ain't worth having. We got to get real with ourselves. Are we putting our best into what it is that we're hosting, or are we doing it and just being, in motion and doing the motions? Are we making it the best that it can be? So just something to think about. And is it a magnet for speaking invitations? Because we're talking about how do we have a book tour that gives us the key to being a speaker in more places. That means getting paid too, right? magnet for that? Or is it just a nice invite my friends to dinner so that we can celebrate the launch of this book? Or is it making an impact in the moment and facilitating change in the moment? That's when you become a magnet for speaking, is when people seeing you creating an impact right now. They want you on their stage because you're doing it in real time and they know that you'll be able to do it for them. These are things that we're thinking about. Last one is that it could be a springboard into corporate contracts and collaborations and community. That's a whole lot of C's right there, right? But that's also a whole lot of cash, right? Corporate contracts, collaborations, and community, that can equal being paid way more than it is that you are in book sales. Some people don't publish a book to sell it. Some people publish a book to give it away when they do speaking. Some people publish a book to gift to people as a way into their world and have it lead to things like corporate contracts and collaborations. It's not always about book sales. So that's one more thing to think about as we continue through what we're going to talk about today, because I'm doing this really fast. All right, here's the first model for a sponsorship, and please feel free to take screenshots. Like, that's what this is for. Model number one is a sponsorship funded tour. Brands pay for visibility and alignment. They want to get in front of their people. So if we're working with a brand like Nike, we know that they work with athletes, right? Their consumers are people who are athletic. So if your book is about health, if it's about being active, it's about community, then Nike would likely want to partner with you. So that way they could gain more visibility to your community because y'all have the same community, right? So we want to align our audiences with that of the sponsor. Because if we're not talking to the same people, like maybe my book is about women, and then I'm talking to GQ, who their audience is talking mostly to men, then it may not jive. So we want to make sure that we're matching our audiences, because that's the payoff for them, by the way, is that they're reaching the people who are interested in their stuff, but who have already found resonance with you. And then it's just a no-brainer. It makes sense for you to introduce them to them, right? That's how sponsorship works. So they could do things like actually give you money, right, to fund your tour. Or maybe they're just going to, maybe you're working on a book that has to do with travel. Maybe if you approach a hotel brand, for example, then maybe they'll cover your cost of traveling. Maybe they'll put you up in their hotels in the different locations around the nation as you're doing your book tour. The possibilities are endless. It just requires a little bit of imagination on our part, and also alignment. Again, we want to make sure that we're talking to their people, because the payoff is that they get to reach your people that are interested in them already. I know that's a lot. It's a mouthful. And the last one here for model number one, sponsorship funded tour, is that it's really great for, I know this is a risky word here, and more about that later. We can have that conversation too. But DEI, leadership, wellness, empowerment, lifestyle, business, right? This can work for any genre. All we need to do is just match the audience and make sure that who we're talking to is the same kind of people that they would want to reach. And what they are actually doing is they're like, oh, well, where we traditionally spend some of these advertising dollars and marketing dollars, we could actually invest in this person, because they've demonstrated that their community is actually more engaged. So it makes sense for us. Like, that's the thought process on the sponsor's end. And we want to think like them when we're writing a letter to them. We want to make sure that we're giving them all of the information that they need in order to make a decision on whether they want to invest in us, right? And all we have to do is just let them know that the audience is a match. So if you need to, to do some work and actually investigate who it is that your audience is, then right now is the perfect time to do that, because that's the only way that model number one is going to work for you is if you know who your audience is and who it is that you're talking to. All right, let's keep going. Model number two. Ooh, I know somebody in the audience who's doing this today. Model number two is a university and college speaking tour. And they're an author. Oh my gosh, I wish you were behind the scenes, Lorna, because you're killing it out there. When we engage in model number two, and we want to impact the university and the college realm, right? We first want to know, like, we can't even think about doing any of these models unless it's aligned. Do you know what university and college students are interested in today? If the answer is no, then you don't belong on their stage. That's the truth. There are plenty of ways that you can find out. Go on TikTok, they're actually not really in Facebook groups much. So that's that. Go on X, find ways to get to know university and college students, if that's who you're talking to, before you start to think about even engaging in model number two. You got to know who it is that you're talking to and what problems they're solving before you start talking to them, or else it's just for show. And that's not what this is about. This is not about just being for show and looking good. This is about making a change and impacting people who actually need what it is that you're offering, who are looking for the value that you have. So what's awesome about university and college speaking, however, is that once you have one contact and you're in, you've gained access to the entire campus network in a lot of cases. Even if your in is in one department, you can still ask for an introduction to another department. Once you've made one contact, you have given yourself access to the entire campus network. You just got to know how to work it, right? And the only reason why you would do such a thing is because your message, your value that you're delivering actually applies to everyone else. I'm not going to ask for an introduction if I'm writing about PR or architecture. I'll use that as an example. If I'm writing about architecture, I would not ask for an introduction to the law program and people there unless it was aligned and it related, right? We're not just collecting contacts to collect contacts. Like, let it be relevant, please. That's when people start to lose credibility, is that they get greedy. And now all of a sudden they want to do orientation and they want to do a commencement. But what it is that they're saying is not impacting the audience the way that it could, because they just didn't do their research. So please do your research, and then you can ask for those introductions. And when you do ask for those introductions, let them know upfront why it's relevant. That's when you start to create a relationship. So an example of some genres where this is particularly good for is mental health. Mental health, identity, leadership, career, even trauma. Shout out to Lorna. Relationships, activism. Shout out to Junie if she's watching this. There are amazing authors out here. And as long as we know that what we're doing resonates with the audience that we're pursuing, there's no reason why we shouldn't get a yes. I'll give them reasons. Let them know why this message belongs on that podium, on that stage. Model number 3. And by the way, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. If I'm going too fast or you have a question, feel free to drop it in the comments. And I'm here to answer them for you, okay? Model number 3 is corporate wellness EI leadership tour. You could very well do a tour, a corporate tour, and have that be your tour, because maybe your book is more relevant to those in a corporate environment than it is for everybody else. That would make sense. And what's great is that HR has budgets for speakers and trainings. So that means that you're getting paid to talk about your mission, your passion, and impact people on your tour. Like, the budgets already exist. And if that's part of your priority, is getting paid, which a lot of people don't want to talk about that for some reason. They've got this funky relationship with money that they can't receive it for doing the things that they really enjoy talking about and enjoy helping people with and enjoy helping a transformation in that particular area. I don't know if you've got that kind of wonky relationship with money, then that's something else for you to explore. But all of the rest of us, we can get paid for doing this thing and really embodying the message, the transformation, and the visibility that it takes to be a sold out author on their book tour. So authors can get paid to speak. And on top of that, you can sell your book. On top of that, you can sell your book. Like, this is how we get to kind of rearrange our thinking. It's not that we need to sell our book to get paid a little. Is that we can actually impact rooms and speak, right? They want us. They want more of us, not more of the book. They want more of us. And we're giving that to them. So it makes sense to get paid. So here are some of the genres where model number 3 really works. Leadership. Sometimes it's hard, like, you know how they say swimming is not a spectator sport. Like, you can't learn to swim just by watching. I know there are some exceptions to that. Typically, you know, in the pool in order to start learning. Leadership is kind of like that. Like, yeah, you can read about leadership. You can read, you know, about like great case studies and stories. And also there's a certain level of hands-onness. I just made that word. Hands-onness that's needed for leadership. Like, people need to be in conversation with others and in relation with others, right? Because that's how leadership works. You have to like get in the pool and lead and start swimming. So it's really great for leadership, emotional well-being. You can read about emotions, but feeling them is something entirely different. Mindset, team culture, DEI. Imagine just reading about a mindset that you could have as opposed to being in a workshop and actually participating in the transformation that gives you it. Totally different experience. And by the way, people want to pay more for that. If you can help someone shift their mindset, oh my gosh, you're shifting their entire culture. This isn't little stuff. That's why we shouldn't be paid little dollars for what it is that we do. This is big stuff, which equates to big dollars. All right, let's keep going. We're getting through all of these models. Model number 4. By the way, I'm just curious. I want to take the temperature of the room here. We talked about models 1, 2, and 3. Which ones are resonating with you so far? And if none of them, it's okay. We still have 2 more left. But can you type a 1, a 2, or a 3, or maybe all of them? What's resonating with you in terms of a model that you want to adopt for your book tour? It could be current book tour. It could be future book tour. Models 1, 2, and 3. Which ones are resonating with you so far? And then we'll get to 4 and 5. It could be one of them. It could be all of them. Let me know in the chat so that way we can see what's happening so far. And if you need a reminder, Model 3 was the corporate, Model 2 was a university, and Model 1 is a sponsor-funded tour. So which one's resonating with you so far? All right. All right. I'll see it when I see it. Oh, got it. 3 definitely. Got it. Oh, 2 and 4. Dang, I was missing these. 1, 2, and 3. I see that. Okay. 1 and 2. 2 and 3 says Dahlia. 1 and 2 says Damien. Lorna says all of them. Got it. Teresa says 1 and 2. Kerchell 2. Got it. Awesome. Okay, sweet. So yeah, it's hitting, right? And we may not even be in those like genres that it's recommended for, and that's totally okay, right? We can make it work for what it is that we're doing. So let's go. Model number 4 is when you are really working with the essence of a particular conference or festival circuit. And I love how the example that came to me was Essence, because Essence Festival, for those of you who relate and are aware of that world, Essence Festival is like, I would say excellent, but it's like, it's beyond excellent in order to be incorporated into their community. Here's something that y'all may not know, but if you participate in Essence Fest, they actually offer to give you training every year on how to make your presentation. If you have a booth, to make your booth better. Like, they really nurture their entrepreneurs. So Essence Fest isn't just, on the surface what it looks to be. They're actually taking an interest in the community and really fostering and giving people the resources that they need to get better and better and better each year. Maybe they'll come, maybe they'll come back, not in like a needy kind of way, but maybe they'll come back and do even better and better and better each year. They don't want people to, to scrape and to save and to make it to Essence Festival just for it to fall flat. They actually want to see you succeed. Okay, so that's just one of the examples there. And also, they have built-in audiences. Do you know how many tens of thousands of people, maybe even hundreds of thousands, that you are being exposed to? For instance, if you're at a conference or a festival like South by Southwest, like, they already have built-in audiences. And if you don't know what that is, I highly suggest that you look it up. Not so that necessarily you can participate, but so that you can be familiar with the types of opportunities there are for authors and speakers to thrive in front of audiences that have already been built. So that way you don't have to do it yourself, right? And this is just an example. You could very well go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm an author. South by Southwest, I heard, is one of the excellent places for authors and speakers to be. Can you give me a list of 10 more just like it? And this is what I'm talking about like creating opportunity and like learning more. Like, we learn one thing and we can expand it into a whole calendar full of stuff. All it takes is for us to get to know ourselves, our book, and who it is that we want to talk to and help and transform. So the thing is that when you get in with particular conferences and festivals, they don't just allow you to be on their stage and expose you to people. They may also have an exclusive group of decision makers that are there just to invest and buy from people who are walking on the stage. And here's an example. There is a show at the Javits Center. I'm going to think of the name of it. It'll come to me. And in this show, you go there, you have a booth, but the people that are walking around are not people off of the street. They are only people. And Javits Center is huge, by the way, just for those of you who are not familiar. Javits Center can fit thousands of people in a show. So if a show is going to be at the Javits Center, it's because they're expecting that many people typically, right? So for this particular show that I'm thinking of, is that people go, they buy booths, but the people that are walking around, they're not people who are just coming off the street. The people who are actually attending the shows are buyers from other companies. They're walking around looking for things to put on their shelves for stores like Target, and I'm going to put, opinions aside about the companies that I'm naming, but these are just examples. Target or Walmart or any of them, who knows, West Elm. Like, they're actually there. They are buyers from those companies who are looking to invest in other companies, smaller companies. They know that they're smaller companies, right? It's just that they go because they want to partner. They want to bring you in and give you access to their audience because that's what they do. Yeah, sometimes these stores, they make their own products, like Walmart makes its own products, but not all of them. The store needs to buy from other companies in order to fill its shelves. And most retail locations are like that. So that's just one example. When you go to a conference or a festival, know who's attending so that way you can speak their language, so that way they can know that you solve their problems. All right. Whew, we're getting through this. I told you we're getting through this. We're on number 4. Visibility and decision to decision makers is important because that way they can understand your credibility. If you can make it to a particular conference or festival, then they already know that you've got a certain ability that got you there onto that stage, right? So you're doing yourself a service by being in those rooms. Excellent. Same thing with influencers and press. You know, if you get into that room, you've already gotten a certain amount of credibility in their eyes, and you can speak to them in their language. Same thing, that gift bag example that I was talking to you about, that kind of falls into this particular model a little bit too. Is that if there's a gala, you know, that's going on, and they have gift bags and handouts and things like that, and you get to be a part of that. Or if there's, they have things called gifting suites or salons. For those of you that have been following me on Facebook for some times, and you'll see that this past February, I was in LA. Oh yeah, Damien's here. I was in LA at a pre-Oscars gifting suite. Like, people and brands show up there just so that they can gift their product to a celebrity and gain visibility that way. Like, that's a real thing. So we want to just know who's in the room so that way we can talk to them, like straight to them. If we need VIP packaging, then we better get that VIP packaging. Awesome. Just check the comments. Damien asks, what is Essence Fest? Google it up, and they'll tell you. It's a really big festival that happens, I think it's July or August, and it's hosted by Essence Magazine. Okay, cool. And I'm here for all your questions. Just let me know. So you want to use the book to anchor what it is that you're talking about. I would recommend carrying it on stage with you. So the book is not just an accessory. Like, you really want to make sure that people understand that this is the foundation, this is the platform on which you're speaking. And that will generate interest in your book, if that's what your goal is. Cool. All right, let's get to this final model. And before we get into this, just let me know how many people are actually interested in model number 4. That was the conference and festival circuit. Like, it's kind of cool because then you don't have to create, each of the stops on your book tour. You could just go from festival to festival to festival to festival to festival, and that's your tour. And based on the exposure that you can get doing that, oh my gosh, you can totally contribute to a lot of people that way in transformation, and fill their pockets with the value that you bring and that you have. So just type a number 4 in the chat. Awesome, Dahlia, got it. Teresa said yes. Cha said yes. Damien's a thumbs up. Yep. So yeah, that's one more model, and we've got one more as we wrap it up here. Okay. And the last model is a community impact tour. And shout out to Lorna. Okay, Lorna says yes, interested in 4 also. Got it. Damien's running. Okay. Number 5 is community impact tour. Now, I was saying shout out to Lorna because you're doing it, but I don't know if you know that you're doing it. You're aware that you're doing it at the same time that you're doing a university tour. Like, mind blown. So Lorna, please feel free to check the comments and reach out to this amazing woman who has written a book and who is actually doing 2 models right now in real time. And just innately, just naturally, right? So yeah, it's possible. And, talk to Lorna. It may be a lot of work. It may be just, she's being in flow. It's possible to do more than one. So, which is why we can be interested in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's just how much work are you willing to put in? I don't want to say work. I want to say how much intention. There we go. Because it can be easy. Oh, you're so welcome, Lorna. Thank you for being here always. Okay. So community impact tour is when you're making an impact in places like community centers. I know a person who's done a YMCA tour speaking, libraries, jails. That's another one. Very familiar with an author who has done that successfully, right? And you would think, oh my gosh, what does that have to do with getting books purchased? Remember, it's not always about that, right? So that's why community impact tour model number 5, you gotta be aware of what your intentions are before you even start the tour, whether this tour is aligned with you or not, because maybe it's not going to yield the amount of dollars that you are looking for. Maybe you're going to utilize this model in conjunction with another one in order to fulfill that financial void. So again, let's just get honest with ourselves so that we can understand if this model is aligned with us or not. So libraries, YMCAs, jails, nonprofit organizations, right? Other types of organizations like women's associations, men's associations, associations for disabilities, associations for you fill in the blank, right? So that's what the community impact tour, that's the where of it. The why of it has to come from you and must be aligned with your mission. Yes, I'm saying it again because it's really important. And also you want to understand that while you're in the flow with the impact that you're creating, you can invite the press to come out and to witness you, to write about it. Remember, all of this stuff is just interrelated. Is it media worthy? We're going back to that. It's a good thing to think about, and then do the thing. Don't wait for someone to reach out to you and say, hey, you're doing something good. I want to write about it. No, reach out to them and say, hey, I'm doing something good. I want you to write about it. And here's why. So we're not waiting anymore. No waiting syndrome. Good. We're over that. And then also you want to make sure that your vision is focused on the momentum from which you are drawing it from. So there's a momentum called like grassroots movement, we've heard, right? Grassroots means that you can really start with nothing, right? And then you can start with one person that you know can be impacted by your mission. And then that person tells a person, and then that person tells a person. Essentially what it means is that you're not working with built-in audiences like the conference and the festival circuit. Totally different. Grassroots, it yourself, right? And that may make sense to you because maybe you need to generate awareness first. You need to educate people first before you can even like talk about what it is that you do or what it is that your mission is about. Maybe they need to know some stuff before you deliver your message. That would be a great example of a place where you can start grassroots. Start with the people that you know. Start with the people who already know about that particular topic. If I stood on a stage at Essence Fest and started talking about, something that is as intricate as Zarel was just here, and she's an expert on lupus, right? But being on a stage in front of 100,000 people, out of that 100,000 people, a lot of people may not even know what lupus is. So there might be some education that has to happen before delivering that passionate talk and delivering that mission to the masses. It's something to consider. Maybe it is something that people already know about. We don't really have to educate them because they've heard of it already. That's why we just need to know who the audience is. If Zarel went to a medical conference, I bet all the people in that room would know exactly what she's talking about. From the misdiagnoses to the symptoms to all of the things, right? We get to determine who it is that we're talking to first. And then it may make sense to come back later, once we've done some of that work. All right. It's 2:00. We've gone through the 5 models, right? And there's a whole lot more. It's insane to think that there's so much more about book tours to talk about than we have talked about here today. And we just covered the 5 models. Let me tell you, we're not going to stop here. This is my invitation to you to just reach out to me, DM me my seat, and I will give you a seat to the ongoing conversation about book tours. Because this information doesn't do any good sitting in my brain. It doesn't do any good sitting in my folder, my inbox, right? It deserves to be in your hands so that you can apply it. If you're an author and you're watching this and you want to know more about how it is that you can sell out your book tour in 2026, reach out to me, DM me the words "my seat," and let's have a conversation. So that way you can get on these models. I mean, you have enough information now. There's just so much more that maybe we don't know. That maybe you don't know. So that's why we're here having this conversation, asking questions that get answered. Thank you, Damien. Damien says, my seat. Lisa Marie says, this is awesome. Dahlia says, I'm doing number 5 in 2026, January. That's what I'm talking about. Teresa says, this was amazing. Thank you. Yes, you can put my seat here. Yes. Excellent. Like, let's not let this information go to waste. Please put it to use. Kerchel says, yes, my seat. Cha says, love, my seat. Yes, let's keep the conversation going. If you have questions that come up 5 minutes after we end, please let me know what they are, because they have answers. And if they don't, we can create the answers. Did you know that that's what happens when you have a question that you don't have an answer to? You actually create the answer. That's what happens, and that's what we get to do. Okay? This was fantastic. Thank you all for your time, your presence. Y'all are amazing. Oh my gosh, the engagement that's going on here in the comments. Yes. Let's continue, and we'll talk soon. So bye for now.